the people who really noticed first that this was a disaster was the mortuaries, was the hospitals, because people were dying really in their homes. They were dying in their beds. They would get home and they couldn't breathe and they would eventually end up passing away. It wasn't like an air raid where people were on the streets dead.
Right.
It wasn't like a hurricane where all of the buildings were destroyed. The buildings were fine. People were dying at home. The mortuaries were so full, though, that they couldn't accept more people. And because the authorities didn't really recognize that this was a disaster, there was no temporary morgue set up. So there was multiple people who just had to stay in their homes. People would end up being stuck with these dead bodies in their home for 2-3 weeks because there was no room at the mortuaries. There was no grave sites available because with no temporary mortuary, with no mass graves, there was nowhere for these bodies to go.
That's awful.
It is, but it was also very hidden. So there was not a lot of press on this. The fog was almost not mentioned at all by the newspapers, except in the context of like traffic was really, really bad.
Wow.
Yeah, kind of crazy. One of the articles that came out was titled "Hit by a Duck," one of the only ones that came out. And it was a story about a duck that was blinded by smoke and crashed into a pedestrian, and then the pedestrian took him to make him feel better. The Manchester Guardian said the business of the city cannot cease just because of a fog. I gotta tell you, Charles Dickens was a reporter in the 1830s, and I'm pretty sure Charles Dickens would have figured this out faster than the British media in 1952 did.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know. They had no idea what was going on.